Hey boys, what's going on? Welcome to week 4. Gonna make a kind of a quick video here today. I'm actually headed out to Buffalo in about 2 hours, so want to make sure I got my video in before then, so Commissioner Tim doesn't get on me about missing any more videos. Just kidding, but we'll go ahead and do some of these recaps. I'm kind of winging it today. I didn't take any notes or anything, so these will probably be pretty brief. But I'll touch on a few things from last week and then look forward to the week ahead. I think it's going to be a very interesting week. I think it's kind of moving week, in my opinion. I think we're going to see some of the cream of the crop kind of rise here. Maybe get some of this muddiness we've got going on in the middle a little more cleared up. Maybe not. Maybe it just continues to get muddier. That would be fun to watch as well. But looking back on last week, I went 3-1 again last week. I don't think I had back-to-back 3-1 weeks a single time last year. I think a lot of that is that I've basically been given two freebies every week, not picking myself or Travis, so that makes it a lot easier. So when you consider that, I've basically been going 500 every week. So that's not that great, but whatever. So let's just go ahead and take a look back at week 3. I think most of these matchups were actually, I think all of these matchups were realistically finalized before Monday Night Football. So that's always kind of a bummer, but I think we still had some good matchups. So let's start off with one that I thought would end up being closer, and it really wasn't, but really a pivotal matchup for this early in the year, just for seeding and like Tim talked about how many wins you're going to need to get in the playoffs this year. I think it's going to be right around 8, potentially even 9, just given some of the talent that we're seeing at the top. So first recap I'm going to do is Kyle and Tim's matchup. For Kyle to go 3-0 right out of the gate, I think is huge, especially, I'm going to say it again and again, given the injury concerns with this team. He needs all the wins he can get when his team is healthy, and he really can't afford any potential, slip ups or anything like that with a fully healthy squad. But I think we all acknowledge when this team is fully healthy, it's going to be extremely hard to beat. Pretty well rounded week for Kyle. Almost everyone scored in double digits. Eckler, again, has that down week. It's hard to say what's going on there, but it's definitely something to watch. And then Darren Waller having an off week as well, but more than enough production from his other guys to compensate for that. 149, it's probably less than what Kyle is hoping for. Once we get in those playoff weeks, 149 is going to be a little dicey, but for a season matchup like this, it gets the job done for sure. And then looking over at Tim, Kyler Murray is, I don't know. He just doesn't look good. I know we make jokes about it all the time, but that whole team just looks slow and kind of stuck in the mud. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Tim's probably having a few concerns about his QB2 play. But again, yes, like Tim mentioned, down weeks from both Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Swift, Justin Jefferson, 2 in a row. You're never going to win when all 3 of those guys, shit the bed. Not sure what's going on with Justin Jefferson. That's definitely something to monitor. Obviously, he's still a stud. You would think it's just a blip on the radar, but something we'll keep an eye on. Kyle Pitts had a good game, something we wanted to see. It would have been great to see him catch a touchdown and have that kind of breakout game for the season, but didn't happen this time. And then finally, Javonte Williams. I would say it's been a disappointing year thus far for him. I really expected him to snatch more of that timeshare, but it's not looking like it's happening. So all in all, Tim on paper, this is a dynasty dream kind of future roster here. It may take it, another year to fully develop, which, I don't think Tim would be fully disappointed. Well, maybe he would be disappointed with, but it's still a great roster on paper. At this point, it's just, are these going to be boom and bust guys? Or are they going to be consistent, top end producers every week? And it's hard to figure that out when you've got so many young guys on your roster. We're still figuring them out and figuring out what they look like in the league. So pretty disappointing week for Commissioner Tim, but some good takeaways. I'm sure he's thrilled about CD. Obviously not dropping that, wide open touchdown pass, but having a good week. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. So Monk and Meerkats jump out to 3-0. No surprise, especially not a surprise to Kyle. I'm sure Kyle predicted that from the start. And we'll just see how that continues to go. And Tim getting the loss falling to 2-1. Next matchup I'll take a look at. Really the only other, real competitive matchup we had, but was finalized Sunday was Mr. Ambassador versus Brady's Third Dynasty. Again, another pivotal matchup, and one I did not see Sergey winning earlier in the week. Earlier on Sunday, I thought this one was over, but was able to pull it out somehow. Squeaked by, what is it, 1.76 points or something. So you always feel good after those weeks. Sergey, absolutely needed the win. I think more than Ryan's team did. Ryan should be solid going forward. But Sergey needs these wins just because I'm thinking he's probably going to be in that mix for the kind of that last playoff spot. Sergey's quarterback play absolutely dominated Ryan's, and now we're starting to see a string of weeks now where Ryan's quarterback play is becoming a real concern. Even Brady on his bench only getting 14 points. So, in a super flex league, it's going to be very interesting to see if this comes back and bites him. Not a whole lot of upside there at this point. And Russ just looks terrible. I think he's washed personally. I'm sure he's going to be able to figure it out a little bit and just become kind of that system quarterback, but he just doesn't look the same. His athleticism, it looks like it's gone. So that kind of scramble around Russ in the pocket, we're not really going to see that as much. So it'll be interesting to see if he can just rely on his arm and rely on the system. Looking at this matchup, pretty down week across the board for both sets of running backs on both teams. Dalvin Cook scored in double digits, but you expect higher from him. Aaron Jones seems to be maybe losing a little ground to AJ Dillon, although again, it looks like Green Bay's just riding the hot hand there, so that could be frustrating. Joe Mixon has come out of the gate pretty slow, and now it sounds he got a little dinged up, didn't play much in the fourth quarter or at all in the fourth quarter. Definitely something to keep an eye on there. And then finally, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you would have expected a bigger game from them just given the Bills' secondary issues. So that was a little bit discouraging and probably the most pivotal part of the loss for Ryan. So that's got to be disappointing. But, of course, Mark Andrews, huge week. Jamar Chase didn't break 10 points. T. Higgins, I thought that injury looked serious, especially given that he had a concussion week 1, but he popped right back up. So anyways, I think there's definitely – I'm looking at A.J. Dillon. He didn't do shit. So I don't know what I was talking about. Green Bay's backfield might be a mess. Green Bay's just got to figure out their offense, and that could be a week-to-week thing. But I know Sergey's happy to see James Robinson really bursting out of the gate. It seems like he's finally got a coaching staff that wants to give him the ball and give him a chance. So great win for Sergey, knocking off the defending champ, and now both teams are 2-1. All right, I'm just going to kind of quickly go over these other two, the blowouts of the week. Again, we're following the process here, so no big disappointments. Looking at Eve first, big win, got his first win, which I know was something he was sure he was going to get this week, but I'm sure still feels good. Again, the quarterback play, not really where you would expect it to be. Mahomes, not a bad game per se, but against Indy, who's kind of been torched the first few weeks, you expected a little bit more. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb all had good games. Cooper Kupp a little quiet, but you can still be happy with that. I think we're hearing Michael Thomas is very, very questionable to play this week, so that'll be something to monitor for sure. Eve's kind of, again, I don't know if it's a joke or not. I don't know who he's starting at the quarterback spot, but I think that's probably going to be the story to watch for this team this week. And then looking at Travis's team, Joe Burrow had a good game, so I'm sure he was happy to see that. Aaron Rodgers looked a little bit more like Aaron Rodgers, so that looks better. again, I'm going to say it every week. You want your rookies and you want your trade chips to perform well. And it was a pretty good week here for Travis in that front. Um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it looks moving forward. Chris Olave looks legit. Has all the makings of to be warranted at that number 3 rookie pick like he was this year. So good pick there for Travis. And then finally, full Jerry over Bills Mafia. So I mean, this one was closer than I'm sure John felt comfortable with. John does get the win, and in the end, it's almost 40 points, something like that. So um, nothing too crazy, but anytime you go up against Travis or I and you only get 116, there's always a little bit of a chance. You never know. You get up in the 120s, there's probably no chance. So of an upset. So, anyways, just looking at this matchup really quick. Justin Herbert, disappointing week. But Trevor Lawrence is starting to look at like everything we expected him when he first came out of college. The kid was the unanimous number 1 overall pick his freshman year of college, and he's starting to show us why. Urban Meyer really held him back, and I think it's going to take a little time this year, but it has all the makings to be a huge breakout for Trevor Lawrence. So I'm sure John's thrilled about that, just given the Trey Lance uncertainty. Najee Harris, I don't really know what's going on there too much. I think game script kind of got him this week, but I'm sure John would like to see more from him. Gabe Davis a letdown week, although all of the Bills really, really struggled. Devontae Smith absolutely broke out, probably the MVP of the week, by fantasy purposes. If John can get anywhere close to consistent, 15 to 20 point production from Devontae Smith, which I think he's fully capable of, John's going to be a team to watch for sure. And then Christian Kirk as well. He'll always be the butt of jokes just given his contract, but this sort of production, he's the team's number 1. And with Trevor Lawrence hoping to break out, this could be a stack that's pretty dangerous. And then looking at my team, Mac Jones hurt, not looking like himself this year. So that's a little concerning. Tua didn't have a good fantasy game, but I think for the purposes of what the Dolphins needed, it was exactly what they needed. They got the big win, which will solidify his standing, hopefully as the starter. So this year, I don't really care about his fantasy production. I just need him to be a consistent starter going into next year. Darrell Henderson looks like he's going to give up his short reign as the lead back. Cam Akers looks like he's growing back into that. Garrett Wilson, a little comeback down to earth game, but 6 for 60. He got hurt. He came back. He still looks really good. So I'm happy there. Bateman, a down game for sure. Dotson, a crashing down back to earth game. The player I'm obviously most excited about coming out of this week would be Dobbs. It seems like did exactly what they needed from him, just given the injuries in Green Bay, and hopefully garnered Aaron Rodgers' trust. I'm getting all hyped and about all these reports coming out that he might be the new number 1, and whatever. So we'll see. And then on the bench, Zay Jones broke out as well. Tied to Trevor Lawrence. As Trevor goes, those 2 guys go. Isaiah McKenzie, a good game. Probably the only Bill that really had a good game outside of Josh, as always. So a couple trade chips, and again, some rookies looking good. All right, we'll move on to week 4. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I spent a little bit too much time on the recap. Sorry about that. Let's start off with some of the easy. Let's start off with an easy one. Trust the process versus Bills Mafia. We're going to go with Tim in this matchup. I don't think there's always a chance, but there's really no chance here. Again, my team is really dealing with injuries as if I needed that to happen, along with having just kind of a shitty roster as is. But, this is more of a Tim needs to kind of see it from his guys. We need to see Justin Jefferson. We need to see Kyle Pitts be more consistent. We need to see Javonte really bust out this year. So I think, Tim will go to 3-1 after this matchup, but will it be a confident 3-1 because he scores 160, 170 points, or will it be oh shit, I don't really know what I have 3-1 if he only drops 130? So I'll be more interested in watching that than anything else with this matchup. All right, we'll go to the other, at least on paper, easy one. Although the Travis with production from his players that he has, some of these vets. I mean, this is a tough out. It's starting to turn into it potentially could be a tough out. I'm going to take Ryan in this matchup. I think most people would, but this one could be interesting just given Ryan's difficulty with quarterbacks, the quarterback situation. Um, this is a big advantage on paper for Travis. And if Joe Burrow has a game on Thursday and Aaron Rodgers has an Aaron Rodgers like game against New England, excuse me, this could be an upset alert. I'd love to see it. Just given I have Ryan's pick. Let's see the champ have to work for the repeat here. I think for Ryan, looking for more normalcy from his Miami guys, his receivers on that Thursday night game. And T. Higgins Thursday night. It always makes you a little nervous when you have a bunch of guys on there and Jamar Thursday night. At least for me, I don't. It goes. It's such a pendulum. You either feel really fucking solid because you've come out in a big way, or you're like, well, my week's gonna suck. We're gonna know, I think, we're gonna know Thursday what this matchup's probably gonna look like, just given again that Joe Burrow is also playing on Thursday night. So this will be a fun one to watch. I don't think this one's as big of a pushover as obviously my matchup with Tim. I'm still going Ryan. I think my prediction would be that the projected total is under. We're going to see a bigger range between the scores than what's being projected currently. I think Ryan will probably take this one pretty handily, but I'd love to see an upset here. All right, let's go to Cup to Canada versus Mr. Ambassador. Both teams coming off of big wins. Both teams looking to continue the momentum. Cup to Canada wants to crawl into that 2-2 kind of mess that we have going on right now. Or I guess we have a 2-1 mess. So he wants to crawl into that and make it a 2-2 mess. Sergey wants to, crawl up into the 3-1 area, become one of those kind of not solidified, but in that range of those playoff tier teams. Sergey has very tough matchups coming up. So I think anytime he can sneak out wins, he needs to get them. And this is the time to do it. Knock Eve down, who's going to obviously be in the running come the end of the year for that final playoff spot or higher. Both of these teams have a lot to prove too. As I went through in the recap, both had a lot of points left on the table. So we need to see it. We need to see more of that consistency, and we need to see the studs be studs. Both these teams are stacked with big name guys, and guys that have all the potential to bust out. I think Jamal Williams in Detroit, they love him there. He's going up against Seattle. I think he could have a really big game. He's already taking all the goal line carries, so taking more of those early down carries is going to be great for him. Get some catches too. I like Fournette to have a big game against Kansas City. It seems like he always kind of steps up against them. Looking at Sergey's team, I think a guy that really needs to show out is Deontay Johnson, just given kind of what he means to this team. The problem is obviously Trubisky is just kind of looking like ass. So I think the best thing that could happen for Sergey's team at this point would be a switch to Kenny Pickett. Who knows if and when that'll actually happen, but it just he doesn't look like the same player this year. And then Sergey needs Joe Mixon to ball out on Thursday. He needs this to be a shootout that's close. Make sure Miami doesn't get out ahead, so Cincinnati's having to throw the whole game. But Sergey needs Mixon to have a big game. I'm going. Who am I going? I'm gonna go. I'm going Sergey. We're going Commissioner Curse on this. I'm going upset. I think I said it a lot last year, and for you new people, I really like the chaos. I want it to come down to the last week, and I want it to come down to points, and I want it to be ugly. So I obviously also selfishly want Eve to win this matchup. So Eve, this one's for you. I'm picking Sergey. And what I would think on paper is an upset. Jalen Hurts, Sergey's had some breakout guys. All the guys we needed for Sergey to really break out kind of have. As we talked in the preseason, he's getting that production from Jalen Hurts, who looks legit. So if that continues, this shouldn't necessarily be an upset. But at least on paper right now, it technically is. So yeah, Sergey. And then finally, let's go with Moncton Meerkats versus Full Jerry. Another very interesting matchup at this point in the year. Like I said in the recaps, for Kyle, stacking wins right now is pivotal. Just continuing to get those wins. So, God forbid we get an injury to one of these big guys, you can, kind of wash away some of those losses and they won't be as big of a deal. Get those guys back, whatever. For John to stay out of that, what is, I think, next week going to be the 2-2 jumble, get a win, knock off the top overall team right now, jump up into that 3-1. We could have that 3-1, 2-2, just jumble of teams, and then Travis and I at the bottom, as it should be. So that would be very fun to try and shake out, what the league's going to look like. Just kind of key players for this matchup. Trevor Lawrence is huge for John. I think Gabe Davis, you'll see a bounce back game there. You should have a tutty, no problem. Christian Kirk, again, with Trevor Lawrence. Allen Robinson continue to build that chemistry. Man, there's a lot of good players, but also a lot of players that are still, you still don't feel 100% comfortable about, what their floor is at this point. Cordy, let John get some good usage out of Cordero. I know that would make his day. So looking at Kyle's team, really for Kyle, just do the same thing that, he's been doing the last few weeks. If Eckler can have a normal game, this should be a pretty easy win for Kyle. As long as we don't have injuries. I'm again going Commissioner Curse. I'm picking the upsets. I want the chaos. In this one, I'm pretty genuine in. I think Kyle, that pick's going to be at the end for me anyway. So I'm not reverse Commissioner cursing this one. I think we're going to get an upset here. I think John's kind of been primed for it. We've seen consistency from John. We've seen some close loss last week. I'm sorry. Never mind. That was Sergey's matchup. But anyways, I think we're going to see Full Jerry bust out in a big way here and create that chaos. So, John, I'm actually pulling for you to get this upset in all genuine purposes. So, just to recap my picks this week: Tim, Ryan, Sergey, and John. Two of those should be wins, right? So. Yeah, probably another 3 in 1 week if I had to guess. All in all, I hope everyone has a good rest of the week. Enjoy Thursday night football. Let's hope the Bills get their shit back together. I hope everyone, I already said, has a good week. So, yeah, keep it Gucci. I don't know. I never know how to sign these things off. Later.